Hello, everybody. Welcome to Martinis with Eddie. Today we have a special guest. You will not believe who I'm going to be talking today to. He is the host and creator of No Filter with Zack Peter. Welcome to the stage, Zack. Hello.
Hi, Eddie.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to chat all things housewives with you.
I know who would have thought that we were going to be chatting about Housewife.
I know. I mean, we've chatted on Twitter.
We have.
We have. So, yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful for the opportunity. Can't
No,
wait to
yeah.
see how everybody feels. Maybe
Yeah.
they'll change their opinions of me by the end of this.
Ah, that's. I mean, I love that. Yes, let's do that because, like you said, like we have had some heated conversations on the internet, and mainly because of Beverly Hills. I feel like in some other shows we might agree on, and we're gonna be talking about it too. And we're gonna leave Beverly Hills for the last segment because I know we might be getting a little spicy, but we're gonna keep it fun. I want to make
Yes.
sure that we all have a good time, and I mean, we as content creators, we know that at the end of the day, we love what we do, and we're gonna get passionate, but we respect each other as people. So, uh,
Yes.
Zack, first, so before we get into the bravo of it all, talk to us about how you started No Filter with Zack Peters.
Yeah, so I started that maybe 7.5, going on 8 years ago. I was at the time doing stand-up comedy and doing some YouTube stuff. And then there was this little network that was brand new. I think Joe Rogan had just started doing like his podcast there and a couple of other comedians. They wanted some other kind of comedy talent to come in. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to do a podcast. Like I'm an on-camera talent. I'm not a voice talent. What is a podcast? And at that point, nobody knew what a podcast was. So I had no like rule book or guidepost for like what to expect or how to launch it or any of that stuff. Whereas now you can watch YouTube videos, you have guides on all these different websites. At that point, nobody really understood what a podcast was. So I was like, you know what, let me give it a try for about a year, see if I like this. And I did. And I would say maybe for like the first 2 or 3 years, I had a full-time job at the time. So the first couple of years, I struggled to kind of figure out like what the show was and what I wanted it to be. It was always around pop culture, but I kind of struggled to find my footing and find my audience. And eventually, once I tapped more into reality TV and specifically like Housewives and Bravo, people really loved it. And, it's continued to grow. And now it has an Instagram account that's really popular. It has our YouTube channel that's really popular. So yeah, it's been a fun 7.5 years.
Oh wow! I mean, that's a long run on the podcast universe. 7 years. I mean, I've seen so many people come and go on this universe when it comes to podcasts.
Listen, people come and go all the time. They come, they last 6 months. They come, they last a year. I mean, I know. And listen, it's easy to launch a podcast. It's easy to start a podcast and to launch it successfully. It's a lot more challenging to stay sustainable for 8 years and to still stay relevant and to continue to grow the show over those 8 years. A lot of people come in and they come out just as quickly.
True, that's very true. Zack, talk to me about what before once again before we get into the housewife. I know you have another business which is wine.
Yeah.
I know I see the can. I see the can right there. So since we have the
Yes.
can right there, talk to me about it. I want to know.
Listen, this is, I'm sure, your favorite. It's called Cut Down My Drinking or What? Or what? It's Beverly Hills inspired by your favorite housewife of Beverly Hills. And so it's a housewives inspired or a reality TV inspired wine line. We have a crisp, light, fizzy rosé and a crisp, light, fizzy white wine. And so we have one inspired by Salt Lake City that says, I'm not going out tonight, I'm disengaging. One inspired by Atlanta that says, I'm gone with the wine, fabulous. And then we also have one inspired by New Jersey that says, don't play with me, your husband's in the pool. Inspired by Real Housewives of New Jersey. So I'm also working on some fun holiday wines that'll hopefully be launching within the next 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. We're working very hard to finalize that. That way they can come out just in time for Hanukkah and Christmas, and we can all sip on some Make It Nice wine.
I hope I get a little package in the mail. I want to
Yes.
try this wine.
Now that we're friends,
I know.
frenemies.
Friend, honestly, the best uh, people on TV are usually the frenemies. Paris,
I
Nicole, Tom
agree.
and Jerry. We will remember
There we
them.
go. There we go.
Now let's jump on the housewife. Let's start with Salt Lake City. Now you mentioned Salt Lake City.
Yes.
I want to talk about it because this season seems a little. How do you feel it? I'm very torn when it comes to this season. I want to know your opinion.
It's not as great as I was expecting it to be, but I also kind of feel like season two wasn't as great as I was expecting it to be either. And I think because there's a giant elephant in the room, right? And the giant elephant is in the room is that we have a criminal on the cast and we're not talking about it, you know? So I feel like it's weird to see Heather Gay have this like, Salt Lake City's Got Talent choir auditions where Jen Shah's emceeing like she's Ryan Seacrest and not about to face 50 years in prison. I think that that's kind of strange. I think Meredith and Lisa obviously have their issues, but it feels like we're not really getting to the core of it. I feel like we need to hash some of these things out, or we need to like fully disengage or something. I just feel like the season's a little slow and we're trying a little too hard to have moments and to be housewives rather than let these organic relationships and organic storylines just kind of play out for all of us to watch. I feel like we're coming in a little hard.
I agree. That's exactly how I feel too. I've been watching Salt Lake City, obviously, as you are, from season 1, and season 2 and 3 feel that way. Like they're trying to be housewife instead of being housewives. And in the last few episodes, like the storylines feel either edited wrong or they don't make any sense. So I'm trying to piece the season together. Obviously, the Jen Shah of it all, when we see her kind of claiming that she's innocent the whole entire season to end admitting to the crime at the end of the season, which is really interesting, and still creating all this mess. How do you feel about the dynamic of fans being more supportive of Jen Shah over our Erika Jayne? Not our, your Erika Jayne of Beverly Hills.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's interesting because it's like, Erika is, yes, facing some civil lawsuits, but like, listen, like Beverly Hills, I think was partially compelling because you have these other women that are grilling Erika and they're like, talk about this, address it. Whereas on Salt Lake City, they're not grilling Jen Shah. And now it's like, Jen Shah lied to everybody, and I saw that she just did an interview this week again where she was kind of not even addressing the elephant in the room of the fact that she has a sentencing date that's coming up on December 15th. And she had a great opportunity in that interview to acknowledge the victims, to show some empathy, to have some remorse, to own her part of it, because now there's no open litigation. She admitted to a judge under oath in the court of law. None of this is alleged anymore. This is admitted by Jen Shah in court that she is guilty of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. She owned up to the fact that she took advantage of elderly people. She said that in court. So why is she doing press to defend whether she did or didn't crash BravoCon, and whether or not, she was invited to an after party or not invited to an after party? Like, why is that? And trashing the other housewives and trashing Tamara Judge. Why is that her priority when, first of all, I think don't crash BravoCon, don't crash an after party, stay at home with your family. You're going to be missing them when they come and give you those silver bracelets and that orange jumpsuit. So I feel like spend time with your family and show some remorse. Show us that you're a human being that didn't. And listen, let's say, because I know her thing now is, oh, well, this was all Stuart Smith. He's the one that, did all this. Fine. But at some point, if that's the narrative you want to play with, fine. Then one, tell us that story. And two, own up to your part. You said it in court that you're guilty. So now actually own it, Teresa and Joe were doing interviews, but when they were doing interviews, they were like, listen, Joe admitted to being shady. Teresa's like, I was just signing the papers, but at least they were giving us something, They weren't just trying to get caught up in the silly housewives drama and BS of it all. And I think it's total deflection. And, the interview she did, I thought was a missed opportunity for us to really show the human side of her. Erika at BravoCon was on stage and I thought, was a lot more humble. I thought she owned a lot more of the stuff. And listen, even Andy Cohen came out on Radio Andy and he was like, I think next season, like he seemed to hint that she may have a redemption arc coming because he said that like she won over the fans at BravoCon because she was open and she was honest and she was like, listen, all I said was just have a little patience. We'll get through this. You'll have all of your answers at some point, but I'm still in active litigation. Jen Shah's not in active litigation anymore. So the hatred that Erika's getting versus the adoration that Jen Shah's getting, or just the slack that we're cutting for Jen Shah, is baffling to me because she is a convict at this point.
I mean, I have to agree with you on one thing. Erika did show a little more human side to herself at BravoCon. I was at that panel, and I was with a friend who is an Erika Jayne fan, and I had to lean and said to him, like, I was like, honestly, this Erika I can appreciate. I said it to him because I give flowers where flowers are due. And I've been extremely hard on Erika. I've been very vocal about, my not agreeing with the way that she behaved and how she decided to take the whole case on her shoulder and feel like she was the bigger victim and not showing. And I understand that there's some legal proceeding behind it and that she's following probably some instruction from legal teams. But at BravoCon, yes, that is 100% true. I'm going to agree with you. She did show a side that most people were not expecting maybe at BravoCon. And that left me with like a little more of like sympathy towards what she's going through.
And listen, here's the difference between BravoCon and the show, right? The show gets edited, the show is sensationalized, and the show has other women that are also vying to keep a spot on the show. So you're going to have these women that are going to try to press her because they're going to get more camera time out of that. When it's like at the end of the day, who's really, do they really care about the victims? What are they doing for the victims? Diana Jenkins at least opened up a fund. Whether it did anything or didn't do anything, there was at least action that Diana took. And listen, I'm not saying, I know people have their issues with Diana as well, but it's like, I feel like at BravoCon, Erika had an uncensored, unedited opportunity to address these things. And we got to see that humble human side for her. And I even think towards the end of last season where we see her talking to her therapist and kind of just being makeup free and crying and being like, listen, I see myself as a victim in all of this too. And, on a human level, I can empathize with that because no, she's not the biggest victim in all of this. But if what her story is true, being that she didn't know what Tom was doing, then I can only imagine being married to somebody for 20 years. And listen, I think she was a trophy wife. I don't think Tom was coming home and being like, yeah, honey, this dinner is paid for by the orphans and widows. Like, Tom's not going to come home. Like, he's trying to cover himself. You know what I mean? That I think when it comes to Erika, I think, is she more likable than Jen Shah? No, I think Jen Shah. But listen, Jen Shah's a con artist. She knows how to play to people and get them to like her. That's how she was able to profit off of vulnerable elderly people.
I was being really hard on Jen Shah before BravoCon too, because I had an opportunity to spend some time with her at that rooftop party. I saw the video that you posted, and I found myself like, now I can talk about it because I wanted to keep it like quiet. But then I saw a video you posted, somebody sent or something, and I saw myself in the back, and I was like, oh, there I am. So I did have the chance to speak to her, and I told her, like, I know you're going through something hard, and I wish you the best, right. Because I can tell that there was like you said on the shows, we get edited version of these people. When you meet them in person, when you see what they're going through and the way that they respond to some words and stuff like that, you see the human side. So I became a little more sympathetic for what she's going through, not taking away the fact that it is true. She admitted to a crime, and a crime that I'm kind of like I feel very personal because I have grandparents, and I would hate to see their savings go into somebody for them to spend it in a lavish lifestyle. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's one thing. So I agree. Like meeting them at BravoCon did change my perspective, like towards Erika to Jen Shah, but Jen Shah does have a higher level of crime because she was directly involved, as she admitted to a court of law.
The ringleader, as the feds called her, the ringleader of the crime. not
Yes,
just involved in it. They named her as the head of the entire telemarketing scheme that went on for several years and took advantage of many elderly people.
and
And
let's
never
leave.
once has she acknowledged those. She can be nice and likable when you meet her. But if she's not out there saying, I feel bad for what I did to these people, how does that make her any better of a person?
Agree, agree, because it is true. I mean, and I know we're not gonna agree on this, but I wish Erika did the same. I don't come for me
No,
just
yeah,
yet.
no, no, I no,
We're,
no, I agree with you. I agree with you, and I think the other women would agree with you as well.
like the main reason why I was not giving her the chance to explain herself, perhaps, or how she was feeling, it was because that lack of sympathy and that lack of
Yeah,
understanding of the you know what these people went through, the victims.
right,
Because at no point I thought that Erika Jayne knew from the beginning. At no point,
right.
like not even before, when it first was released, I never believed or said that she 100% knew where the money was coming from. I agree with you. I feel like she was more like a trophy wife. The husband was lending money through without telling her where this money was coming from. I do
Right, right,
agree
right.
with that. I'm not gonna say that she was the mastermind behind it, but my sense of humanity was the one who was like, I can't support you because you haven't
Right.
shown me that you care about these people. That's the part where I wish she showed more of that, because I will be more on her side.
Yeah, and I think the difference though with Erika and Jen Shah is these are Jen Shah's victims. These are Tom Girardi's victims. These aren't Erika's victims, you know? And I can see from her lens whether people agree with it or not, and whether I agree with it or not is neither here nor there. But I think when it comes to the way she's looking at things, she sees herself as just as much of a victim because she was bamboozled along with Tom. And think about it, if you're married to somebody for 20 years and you don't know anything and all of a sudden your life explodes and now everybody's coming at you and suing you and claiming that they are owed money from you and your name is being dragged in the press, and meanwhile you have people like David Lira and Christopher Camone and Keith Griffin, all of whom worked at the law firm, they're all hiding. They caught Christopher Camone, the chief financial officer, trying to flee to the Bahamas. He's now in custody. Where
Yes,
has any of that judgment been towards him over the past 2 years? Yet we've been
100%.
dragging Erika, and we drag this woman every day and beat her up in the press and beat her up on YouTube and are talking about how she's not very sympathetic or not very empathetic. When if you go back to not this most recent season, but the season before, she tried to tell people that she didn't know. You have the scenes where she's crying with her mascara coming down her face. And what did everybody say? She's lying. Those aren't real tears. She wore mascara because she knew that it was going to come down her face. So it's like, at what point do we push this woman so far? Like, how do you then want her to continue to take a beating from the public and then to also be empathetic? You know, I agree. She should be a little more empathetic to these people. These are not her victims, these are her husband's victims. And I do believe that there is a level of empathy that you can have, or, you know, some sympathy for what they've been through and the fact that they've been wronged. But at the same time, it's like when you're getting beaten up by the public every single day, it's like you don't really want to be that nice of a person the next morning either, especially when you're filming a television show and you have these women that you have to film with you that are supposed to be your friends and they're contributing to this as well. You know, it's challenging. That's one of the reasons I appreciated like Cherie so much this past season on Beverly Hills, because when Garcelle's sitting there talking about how she would just so easily give up the earrings, and Cherie's like, I don't know, I feel like that would be a really hard thing to just give up, you know? And I think a lot of us, myself included, would like to be like, yeah, if I were in that position, take the earrings, right? But like there are so many other elements to it of like the legalities and holding on to assets, or just the personal being like, I was wronged by this man, I'm entitled to something. Whether that's right or wrong, those are very real human emotions that you would process in a split like this, in a divorce like this. I think
Yeah.
it's very natural. It's maybe not the most likable. I will agree with you. I don't think she's had the best moments on the show these past 2 seasons, but I think they're at least honest moments. And I think humans have really ugly moments, and we're just seeing a human going through something really tough.
I mean, I agree with that. I do think like shooting a TV show while you're going through this is must be really hard. I mean, going through it on your own in the privacy of your home is hard.
Yeah.
Imagine having cameras 24/7 following you while this is developing. So yes,
Right.
that is. I mean, that's completely right. I do appreciate having cast members like Garcelle and Sutton questioning, because there is a
Right.
side of us that want those
Are
questions to be answered,
curious.
and
Right.
also think that way. Like, we need those cast members that somehow voice our questioning, because that's also how real world is. Like, if I'm
Right.
in a group of friends and somebody is going through this, I mean, there's going to be some like moment where I feel like, do I want to get involved? Do I
Right.
need to find protection myself? Like, should I ask a lawyer? It's like what happened with Lisa Barlow last season on the when they were going to the
Right.
trip. That's when the Fed showed up. That she called her 7 lawyers, because she's like, do I need to do something? This is, I mean, this is the Feds like knocking our
Right.
van. What's happening? So in reality, I mean, I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, you know, it's gonna happen. Fandoms are hardcore when it comes
Right.
to the love for the housewife. I mean, we grew up watching these shows. We become part of the show somehow in our heads. So it's
Right.
obvious that like we are not going to agree on everything, but we have to understand too, like in the process of a story developing, there has to be a side asking the question that some fans or just
Right.
being in a group friend wants to know. I know, for example, like um, people were being really hard towards Sutton last season when she was asking the question because she read the article, while everybody else pretended. Because let's be honest, I mean, I highly doubt that these women did not read that article. Like, we saw that sit down scene where Sutton said, I read the whole entire article more than once. I read it on the phone, I read the paper version, and I contacted my lawyers and I want to know what's happening. I feel like that was a simple reaction of a person who has reputation to take care of, and he has also a business, and he has a public image that it's just a natural reaction. And I noticed an outrage of fans saying like, oh, she's doing the most. I'm like, yeah, I mean, she's asking questions that I would have asked if I found out that somebody that I'm working with that
Right.
I don't know 100%, because at that point Erika and Sutton were not like friends or anything like that. They were co-workers at that point.
Right.
So,
And I think from a content perspective, like watching the television show, I think those are very natural questions to ask, right? Like, you're going to want to know, hey, are you? I mean, I think Kyle had a natural reaction of being like, hey, if this is our friend and if this is true, then she's been lying to us this entire time. Dorit was very clear, and she was just like, orphans and widows, like, this sounds really bad. So these women, it's natural to be curious, right? It's natural to have questions. I think we also forget that season Sutton didn't have a diamond. She's a friend of and was upgraded at the end of the season. So she was definitely in pursuit of having a diamond. Crystal was brought in. That was Sutton's second
yes,
season.
yes.
Crystal came in with the diamond. Sutton was still brought in as just a friend of. So naturally, I think Sutton is going to do the most. Sutton is going to push a little harder because Sutton wants to get her diamond. So I think that's natural as well. So I think there's a little bit of truth to both parts of that.
Yeah, I now I remember that she filmed as a friend and she got her
She
diamond
filmed as a
after
friend and got her diamond at the end.
at
Yeah.
the end. Yes, correct.
And
That's
she earned it. Listen, she earned her diamond. She went hard and she earned it.
I mean, something we gotta work hard to get what we need and what we want. I mean, it's
Right.
it's
But
it's crazy.
that's why my brain is kind of like, well, I don't fully question. Yes, I think there were some natural questions that Sutton had. Yes, the women had some natural reactions, but I think Sutton pushed it a little harder because she had a bigger objective, and ultimately it paid off.
Well, that's fair.
She got her
Yeah,
diamond.
it's fair. It's fair. Honestly, that season 11, it was a crazy season to watch, especially because it was during the pandemic. So the whole drama
Yeah.
felt like trapped in a can. Like I feel
Yeah.
like we weren't developing anything because it was literally filming in their homes, trying to avoid getting COVID. So the development of the story was even more intense because that's how it was. They didn't have the opportunity to like
Yeah.
go anywhere else. Everything was trapped. So do you feel that the COVID and the pandemic kind of like also add another layer of the way that they were trying to question Erika, or the way that it was showed to the viewers?
Well, if I remember, I think the Brandy and Denise season was the real COVID season, right? Because that's when they were taping their confessionals at home. So
Yeah,
the height of the pandemic was the Brandy and Denise season. So
yeah,
this was at the tail end of 2020 going into 2021,
yes.
the following summer. So I feel like, people weren't in that same headspace. Everything was open up. People were going back to work. People, were getting their vaccines. Like, there was an element of safety that I think that may apply better to the season prior with Denise, and they were a little hard on Denise. I understand how the world had kind of shifted. So there were a lot of people that were looking at it from the lens of like, I don't care about this rich woman's problems because at the end of the day, she's still going to have money and she's still going to be fine. So I think that people did judge it from that point of view as well. But I mean, I thought Erika was answering a lot of their questions at the beginning. When Sutton was like, um where did the money go? And Erica's like, I don't know where the money went. If he stole that money, I would like to know where the money went. And then everyone's reactions were, oh, well, the money went to pay for your music career and the money went for this. So I feel like she was answering a lot of those questions, and it just seemed like people weren't satisfied with the answers that she gave. Garcelle asked her in the show, did Tom give you a heads up about all the lawsuits? And she said, no, I didn't get any heads up. I left, and then the house of cards came tumbling down, and now this is the mess that my life is. And that wasn't good enough for people either. They thought that she was lying. They thought at that point she knew what was going on. And now everyone's kind of changed tune, and they've changed the goalpost from being like, I thought she was guilty, I thought she knew. And now people are like, oh, well, it's not that I thought that she knew. It's that, I want her to have more remorse for the victims. I want her to have some humility, when it's like there was no remorse or humility or any sort of ounce of sympathy or empathy for her the season prior, that I can understand why she has a tougher guard this season and why her walls are a little stronger. And then you see what's going on with Jen Shah, and it's like, that same level of outrage is also not there, and I just, it's it's interesting, the as I call them, double standards sometimes, or how we like to change the goalposts for different housewives depending on how much we like them or what their likability is. But I always like to look at things as, a little more objective. And I think likability, Erika maybe would fail on likability, but when it comes to culpability, she's not culpable for anything, but yet we judged her for the past 2 years as if she were. So, now we've created the monster that we're watching on the show now, because now she really is guard up.
But I'm like you said, like maybe next season we will see a different Erika, especially
And
after the reception of BravoCon. I do believe that she had a better reception than she was expecting to. I think she went in,
I agree,
with a guard, because even during the panel, the first panel, the Beverly Hills panel that they had on Friday, when she walked on stage, the first maybe like 2 or 3 questions, you can tell there was like a guard. But as the panel went on, and she realized that people were reacting a little positive as it went on, and she was being more open and honest about how she felt and how she was feeling during this the taping of the season 11 and 12. She let go of that guard, and it seems to be like a better response from the audience.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's something that we have to look forward to for next season. Talking about next season, there's a lot of talk, and this is gonna be the part that might be a little messier, because to be honest, Erika Jayne, I do want her to come back. I would like to see her without the person I'm going to talk about right now, because that's the next we're going to. Do you expect a shakeup or not from?
Do I expect a shakeup for next season?
Yes.
I don't know. I go back and forth, where I have moments where I'm like, I think they're going to shake things up. But then at the same time, like, Beverly Hills was the strongest rated and most watched housewife show this year.
Yes.
So, I mean, and that's comparing it to Atlanta and Salt Lake City and Potomac, like Beverly Hills reigned supreme. That usually, if the ratings are reflective of people tuning in, usually Bravo doesn't change the cast all that much unless, somebody quits. But I just, I can see them bringing everybody back. I think there was enough unresolved tension. I think there was enough drama amongst the current cast members. I think, there are still some storylines to be explored moving forward. So I can see everybody coming back. I wouldn't imagine that they would do a major cast shift, but I would like them to bring back Brandy.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask you. Who would you want to bring back and why? Because I have a whole cast in my head that I would love to have, but I want to hear yours.
I think the current cast is perfect and just add Brandy into the mix. Maybe we demote Dorit. I love Dorit. Dorit was always my favorite. But I think maybe we bring her down to a friend of, and maybe we bring Crystal down to a friend. I think maybe we bring a couple of them down to friend of and let them earn their spot. I think Dorit and Crystal maybe are the most worthy of a friend of demotion. But I would like to see Brandy back on the show. I know it probably will never happen, but I wouldn't mind seeing them bring Teddy back into the mix since there's so much tension right now with the Fox Force 4 that to bring Teddy back in, I feel like Teddy would really be torn between am I with Kyle and Dorit? Am I with Erika and Lisa? Where do we stand? Because we at least know that the five of them have a real, genuine friendship. And I feel like that's one of the biggest critiques that people have about Housewives shows is it's often women that are cast together or actresses that are cast together. But at least we know Kyle, Dorit, Lisa, Erika, and Teddy all have a real genuine, that's a real friend group. Even Crystal, because Crystal was friends with Teddy. So I feel like that, would be compelling to really watch. But I mean, I'm not mad at the current cast.
That's interesting. I would have thought about it, but my cast, the one that I wish they had, it's have Kyle, Dree, Erika, and Brandy as a team because they have something in common, and I mean, Brandy's really good friend with Kyle. She's in good terms with Dorit. I feel like she will go.
No, I don't think she's on good terms with Dorit.
No, she isn't.
I don't think she doesn't. Brandy has issues with Dorit and Sutton.
Yes.
And it seems like she's friends with Kyle. She seems friendly with Erika and Lisa. I don't think she knows Crystal. I don't think her and Garcelle are necessarily close, but I know she's got beef with Sutton and she's got beef with Dorit.
So I would like them four to have that on that side. On the other side, I would like Garcelle, Sutton, Denise, and I would say Camille, because I know that they there's something that I would love in a housewife that is messy, but it's not the type of housewife that is going for the jugular, but she knows how to shake things up. And I feel like Camille has that. And she is also rich enough to not care for the paycheck, but work for it because she likes the spotlight. Yeah. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
So I would like even teams of people who like each other and they have like little drama, they connect to the other team. Kind of have like an organic drama within the groups. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. I think Camille brings a lot. Brandy brings a lot. It's good to kind of see some familiar faces come back to the shows. I think that's one thing that Bravo's been really good about lately too. I mean, we see on Potomac, they brought back Charisse. I feel like that was one we didn't need to bring back, but they're bringing back the nostalgia.
I saw your tweet and he sent me to a different galaxy because that's exactly how I felt when I was like, why? And you posted the two Pokemon and one was Ascala and the other was Charisse. I was like, because I also liked Pokemon growing up, so I understood the concept behind that. I was like, it sent me to it was amazing. It was. I wish I thought about it. Damn it. So
but no. I look forward to seeing what they do with Beverly Hills. I think the women that they have in place right now, though, are pretty solid. I mean, and they've performed for the past 2 seasons that I think they're pretty good. I don't know if they'll bring Diana back, though. I feel like Diana really might not. They might not give her a second chance.
Now the tough question. This is gonna be the one I'm telling you, it's gonna get a little spicy here.
Okay.
The Lisa Rinna of it all. That's the one that that's the one that is gonna kind of shake the conversation a little more. Do you feel
Yeah.
that she's going to get a contract after this whole entire mess of a season?
I mean, I can definitely see them giving her a contract. I mean, I think anybody that can walk on stage and take a booing the way that she did shows that she's a strong enough character that it invokes a reaction out of people. And I think as much as people hate her, I think people love to hate her. And that love to hate of Lisa Rinna is what's probably going to keep her on the show. When people become indifferent to you, that's when it's a problem because then people don't care about you. But think about it. People are still going to be tweeting about Lisa Rinna. People are still going to boo her on stage. People are still going to be, talking about her on YouTube. And I think the more you talk about her, the more you're talking about the show. And the more you're talking about the show, the more people are going to tune in to watch the show.
But do you think that there's going to be a point where you don't want bad publicity at all times, and it's gotten to a point. I mean, this is from a viewer perspective. I'm not talking about like as production wise. I'm kind of a viewer. When it might backfire to the channel, it might backfire in the way that advertisement might not want to be associated with some people, and the fact that like she has a pile of very problematic storylines, not even her storyline, but like the way that she kind of went on in some cases, like we talk about the Yolanda, the Munchausen situation, and we talk about the Denise situation, and we talk about the allegations of her being behind also like the Lisa Vanderpump, and some tweets that are still on out there and keep resurfacing every time that she does something, like from her past with Star Jones and all this stuff. So do you think that at one point that even having somebody who has that strong personality, that I mean she knows what she's doing too. I mean, she's an actress from the 90s.
Yeah.
In the 90s, having good or bad publicity, it was publicity. We all know that. But now in 2022, do you think that might turn off the network at one point?
Maybe at one point, but I don't think we're at that point if the ratings were as high as they were and it's the top show on the network or the top housewife on the network. I mean, I think when the ratings, if fans are really that bothered by it, because people on Twitter kept saying this season's hard to watch, and I'm just like, well, your eyes must have been bleeding because everyone was tuning in week after week. So, I think until it really gets to the point where people are like, it's hard to watch, I can't watch it, and they really shut up and stop watching it, then I think it becomes an issue. And you brought up advertisers. Advertisers don't care about the content as much as they care about the numbers. At the end of the day, it's about the bottom line. If the bottom line is the numbers are there and it's translating into sales, that's what the priority is for the network. I also, Lisa Rinna is a soap actress. That's what she does. That's what she brings, has she had some wild storylines? Yes, she absolutely has. I saw that she recently apologized for the Yolanda of it all. She said that was her one biggest regret was Yolanda. I mean, I don't feel as bad about the Denise thing. Like, Denise hooked up with Brandy and then lied about it and wouldn't let Brandy come to the reunion. Like, Denise looked guilty. And like, that's part of the show, right? Brandy was willing to come on. Brandy was willing to talk about it. Denise didn't want to face Brandy, which I think made her look guilty. So if you're going to be on a reality show and you're going to hook up with another cast member, it's likely going to be talked about and you kind of have to face it, So I wasn't as bothered by the Denise thing. The Lisa Vanderpump thing, I think Teddy was the one that was like the bigger person that was really part of that. If anything, Lisa was just pushing for more transparency from Lisa Vanderpump. And then Lisa Vanderpump didn't end up showing up at the reunion. So I feel like, I don't feel as bad for Lisa Vanderpump either. I empathize for what she was going through during that season. But, she had an opportunity to share her piece and she didn't either. So Kim Richards, people love to bring up. Kim's not some innocent victim. I love Kim Richards, but I love Kim Richards because she was gangster, right? She was like ruthless and toothless. Kim Richards was ready to fight you and she'll take you out. Was she near death? I mean, I don't know. You can look at her on Cameo now and she still looks a little fragile to me. So, and listen, she was battling substance abuse. So you were calling a spade a spade. She wasn't entirely sober when we were watching her on the show. So calling that out, I think, was fair. Yeah, and then this season with Kathy. I mean, I think she went a little hard this season on Kathy. It was a bit like, okay, let the mouse go at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the Kim part though, I that one for me was one
Kim
that
was
I feel like,
hardcore.
yeah,
Kim was
Kim. I
hardcore.
love Kim. Kim, it's a housewife that she will always have a very special place in my
Yeah,
heart.
love Kim.
You know, uh, I really wish in that apology towards Yolanda she included Kim, because even though like we know she was battling, her own demons.
But why does
the,
Lisa
the,
have to
the,
apologize to Kim and Kim doesn't apologize to anybody? And
no,
Kim was rough on a lot of people. Kim
no,
was
no, no,
rough on Kyle.
but nobody's saying that she doesn't have to apologize to anything. I'm saying like that particular case. I mean, it's maybe not about talking about her battling her demons. Let's I'm gonna want to call it that way, demons, because I don't know exactly what substance she was fighting. I mean, we know alcoholism, but we don't know anything else. She was battling that part. But the way that it was portrayed on the show by Lisa, especially when it came down to the way that she talked to Eden about it, that particular scene when she said like, "Oh, she's close to death" and all this stuff. I mean, all those words that she put out in the universe, I feel like were a little too much and doing the most over somebody else's struggle. I mean, it didn't feel like it came from a place of like, okay, I have family member who battle the same thing. It didn't feel authentic, and as that season developed, we see it too. Like towards the end of the season, when even Eden herself was like, "You tossed me under the bus and run away when when everybody came after me, because at the end everybody thought that Eden was the one saying those stuff, when in reality it was Lisa." So I'm not expecting Lisa to go back in time and change what she said, but we should be adult enough to acknowledge when we messed up, and especially in such a big topic, which is somebody else's battles. I mean,
I mean, but the same thing could be said about Camille when she outed Taylor Armstrong's domestic violence. Or the same thing could be said about Sutton when she was coming after Erika for her legal issues with Tom Girardi. Like, that's part of the job, is to call these people out. And substance abuse, domestic violence, taking advantage of orphans and widows, like, we can't pick and choose the issues that we want to empathize with, or that we don't want to empathize with. Like, look at Taylor Armstrong was in a really tough position, and Camille outed that on national television, and nobody's holding Camille to the fire the same way they want to hold Lisa Rinna to the fire. And I think I don't think that Kim Richards is as, I mean, yes, she battled with substance abuse, and yes, I empathize for her struggle, but like, I don't think that Kim, I think, could hold her weight, and she was rough. I mean, we see her at some of these reunions and she was screaming at Kyle. She said, "I don't like you." When Kyle was talking about how Kim's dog bit Portia's finger and Portia had to go into the hospital, Kim laughed at her and said, "Your daughter had a little bite on her finger." And Kyle's like, the bone was almost infected, and like, it was a lot worse than that. And Kim didn't have any empathy or care about her own niece. That it's like, how are we then going to hold Lisa Rinna to the fire for doing her job on a reality show when Kim has not had that same level of empathy to a lot of other people? I mean, and then you want to talk about the Denise thing about Lisa Rinna and Denise Richards. Kim, if we go back to that season and we go back to that scene where Brandy brings it up to Kyle and to Teddy, Kim Richards was the one that was instigating that and pushing Brandy to talk about it. So if anything, Kim's the one that outed Brandy and Denise's affair. But again, we like to forget all of these things.
Yes, Kim opened the door. She opened the door, but I mean, saying that she outed it, that's a stretch, because if
she opened the door for Brandy to say it, and had
Brandy
Kim not done that,
Brandy was Mike, so it's not like she was not like willing to talk about it.
No, I'm sure she was. So no, yeah, I'm sure she was.
That's one. And when it comes down to Denise, I mean, I understand we are talking about a reality TV show where people are expected to talk about their lives. But we also have to understand that there's some points and topics that behind the scenes, production-wise, they agree not to talk about. And some of those points were...
Let's talk about the husband.
Oh, let's talk about the husbands.
Why is it an issue for Lisa Rinna to get upset over her husband being brought up when her husband's not on the show, yet Denise hooked up with another cast member and that gets brought up as content on the show?
I mean, it's. I mean, the point is like, who
Double
cares about that?
standards.
I honestly, I mean, my
So then if who cares about it, then why can't Denise just admit it and move on from it? Why is Denise lying and concealing something that actually happened?
you know
If
that
we're supposed to be on a reality show and be honest.
you know that Denise was going through the court to get the kids custody, right?
And what does that have to do with hooking up with Brandi Glanville?
It has a lot to do because when you have you can have some kind of like stuff attached to you when you are
you can't have sex when you're in a custody
you're
battle.
supposed to be married and all this stuff. I mean, I'm not saying.
Are you?
I mean, I'm not saying that was part of it, but what I'm trying to say
She was
is
talking about her husband's giant dick during the custody battle as well.
In the previous season, but when she went into this season, one of the topics that she didn't want to talk about, and that's why she was trying to keep it as PG in the moment, was because she was going through that part of her life, and she wanted to make sure that that custody battle went right, because she was fighting a big monster, which is Charlie Sheen. So, I mean,
but Charlie Sheen's reputation is already pretty bad. Like Charlie Sheen's reputation, like you don't need any more ammo to make Charlie Sheen look worse. Like he already looked pretty bad. Like when you're inviting a hooker to Thanksgiving dinner, that's hardly better than hooking up with Brandi Glanville.
Yeah,
so I mean, we don't need to make Charlie Sheen like admitting, or just like I feel like had she just owned up to it and like just like brushed it off, it would have gone away. But it was the fact that she was denying it and running away from the conversation that I think made it a lot more frustrating for the other women.
And I remember, and I remember this part too, because I keep sparing people that scene. Remember when she was like, bravo, bravo, fucking bravo, that scene, people think that she's trying to, she said, oh, she's lying. But what people don't get is the point where she spoke with production and the ladies that day that she was going to be in court. So the code word for court was work, that she was going to be at work. And Kyle was trying to get her to talk about it, and then she kind of freaked out when she realized that that Denise was not having it. So I mean,
but what does that have to do with Lisa Rinna and Kim Richards?
Well, I mean, we're trying to talk about why Denise got that real weird editing, and why. And honestly, that the part
I don't think she got a weird edit. I think she got the edit she deserved.
I mean, yeah, I mean, she just decided not to talk about stuff that she didn't want to talk about, and it was already pre-planned.
Then don't go on a reality show. Then don't go on a reality show. If you're not going to show us your real life, you can't go on a reality show.
Then this is not only Denise's fault. This is also production's fault for allowing this, clause to be on a contract. Hey, let's not talk about this part of my life because I'm going through this. Like you said yourself. What about the husband?
They didn't, but that wasn't production. That was Denise trying to produce the show herself and conceal parts of her life. You can't say, I don't want to talk about the kids when the kids are literally on the show. You can't say, I don't want to talk about Charlie Sheen when you're talking about him, bringing a hooker to Thanksgiving dinner. You can't say, my sex life is off limits when you're talking about how giant your husband's penis is. Like you can't have it both ways. Denise wanted to have her cake and eat it too, and that's just not how it worked. And the other women were not going to allow her to have that sort of power over the storylines, and she ended up looking like a fool because she made herself look like a fool. And now she's desperate to come back on the show.
Or was it because of the paycheck?
Maybe it was because of the paycheck, but if you're going to sign up for a job, you can't say, hey, I'm going to sign up to be a janitor, but I don't want to mop the floors. Do your job.
I mean, I agree halfway with you, so I'm gonna say that I do believe and agree that if you're gonna sign up for a reality TV show, you have to understand that there's some part of your life that you might not like to be shown on TV, but they're gonna be shown anyways because that's part of reality. So, but I also stand by the point where it's particularly Denise. I mean, and I honestly did not need this whole Brandi Glanville storyline to be dragged for so long, because if she didn't want to talk about it, especially when it comes to a same-sex relationship, with somebody who's married to a man. I don't need to know. I don't care. That was her private life, and yeah, if they brought it to the show because it happened, yes, they want to talk about it. But if she decided to say cut it out, people should have just let it go. And that's one thing that I see that happens on Beverly Hills a lot is that
Erika said she didn't want to talk about her legal problems, but yet the women kept hammering her. And you said these are questions that we have naturally as audience members.
Yes.
So we want to know. As a viewer, I wanted to know about the Denise thing. And listen, if Erika can't say let's not talk about it and we just not talk about it anymore, then Denise shouldn't be able to get that same luxury as well.
But was Erika's case wasn't like on pretty much every article in the United States, in every single like magazine. I mean, that conversation you can't avoid because it's out there. It's not just between the cast member. The Denise thing, on the other hand, was something that happened between her and Brandy Glanville. It wasn't like a case that it was on TMZ or happening or whatever. It happened because they decided to talk about it, and that's how it got leaked to the public. That's the only point. That's what I feel.
But
like
it came up, and then it became headline news. And then when it was all in the blogs and it was all over the press, and Denise had an opportunity to then address it at the reunion, she said, "I'm not going to go to the reunion if Brandy is there." So she continued to try and block that. And listen, the other women had to take their beatings on the show when it was their season and their turn.
That's right.
Denise doesn't get a pass. She should have been thrown in the fire just as much as the other women did as well, because that's just part of what you sign up for.
I agree. But once again, I still think that some of the topics, when it comes down to Beverly Hills specifically, they drag them for too long. Like, I really wish some of these topics will just be quick. I mean, you don't need to drag a hookup with Brandy Glanville for 10 episodes. Like, that was so unnecessary. It's like Puppygate. Like, come on. Like, for how many episodes do we have to talk about the goddamn dog that was dropped in a killing shelter? Like, and but
I think the reason they got dragged out is because there was never a conversation that was able to happen. Lisa Vanderpump would not have a conversation about Puppygate, and she wouldn't address the women. She decided to quit the show instead. So it's like, and Denise wouldn't face Brandy. So it's like the reason they keep getting dragged out. I agree. They need to at some point put a pin in it. Let's move on to something else. But the only way to move on to something else is to address it head on and have conflict and resolution, which is what all housewives are. Conflict and resolution. That's part of the storyline. So in order to finish a storyline, we need to have the conflict and then the resolution. These women were avoiding the conflict, which then prevented us from reaching a resolution. And then we have the reunion. That's a perfect opportunity to finally have the resolution. Lisa Vanderpump didn't show up to her reunion. Denise didn't allow Brandy to show up to their reunion. So again, we avoided the resolution, which is why these things kept getting dragged on.
Yeah, but when it comes down to Puppygate, I specifically Puppygate, that was one of the weirdest storyline ever, because they were mad at Lisa Vanderpump because allegedly, which is still allegedly, I don't care what anybody says, that she was the person behind the leaking of the storyline. But regardless, who leaked the storyline, the issue here should have been people being mad at Dorit for dropping the goddamn dog in a killing shelter, or give it to somebody else when there was a contract with Vanderpump Dogs to return the dog to Lisa Vanderpump or the company. Something that didn't happen. And she had a $5,000 fine for that never got paid. So instead of focusing about some really ridiculous article, they should have been like, okay, Dorit, next time, don't drop the dog at the shelter. Let's move on. That should have.
Well, she didn't drop the dog off at the shelter. She gave the dog to another family, and she said that they trusted that family. The family wanted a dog, whatever. That's Dorit's side of the story. But I think, the issue wasn't so much that there was a silly story that was circulating about Dorit, but it was more about the fact that Lisa and Dorit were friends, and there was a feeling of betrayal that Dorit felt that if Lisa was really behind this, then that felt like a betrayal to Dorit and to their friendship. And listen, I think Lisa Vanderpump was a great reality star because she was also very calculating and she was a great producer. She knew how to move the pieces, right? And I think she knew how to make sure that there were conversations that were being had. She knew how to make sure we were talking about things in order to have conflict and have resolution. The issue is, I think, because she had that history, that it looked like she probably was leaking these things or had a hand in leaking this specific story to the press. And without these women acknowledging that, like, hey, maybe this will actually help give Dorit a storyline, there was more of the feeling of like the betrayal that Lisa would try and make Dorit look bad in the press. And I don't even know if that was Lisa's intention, if she were the one that leaked it to the press.
True.
Which we've never had confirmation of.
Yeah, we will never know, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, we are going to keep speculating about this puppy gay until the end of the day.
So the end of time, yeah. And then the storyline's really never going to end.
Goddamn puppy gay. It's like Penny Gate too. Like, we're still talking about it.
Pantygate was another one. I'm like, oh my God, let the mouse go.
I know. Like, Jesus Christ, for how long we're going to talk about these panties?
I know. Or lack thereof.
Or lack of their. Yep. I think, didn't they just kind of show a little clip about it, like in the last season? I'm trying to remember. I think they showed like a little clip, like for like 2 seconds. Oh gosh, enough of the punny gays. Whew. Look, we got through Beverly Hills and we didn't kill each other.
No, we did it. See, and we can have conversations and not agree on things, and it's fine at the end of the day.
I keep telling it to people. Like, I posted this a couple of days ago because some people try to get a little too personal. I don't pay attention to personal attacks because I create content because I enjoy doing it. This is not my full-time job. This is something that I love doing, and I appreciate meeting people like yourself who also are passionate about pop culture and reality TV, and we enjoy doing this. So taking anything personal, it's just doesn't make any sense to me. So I always tell people I appreciate content creators. I don't have beef with anyone, and I will sit down on a table and talk about Housewives, even though we don't agree on. We're gonna have a good time, and that's what we did today.
Exactly. And I enjoyed it, Eddie.
And I'm expecting that goddamn wine for Christmas. Goddamn.
Yes.
Well, Zack, anything that you want to say before we go?
Thank you. And like, listen, guys, we didn't always see eye to eye, but we were able to have a conversation. We were able to still be respectful, and we're going to go and have a good time the rest of our day. Like, it's not the end of the world to not agree with somebody that has a different opinion about the Real Housewives.
That's right. And most likely one day we will have a glass of wine or real wine in person, and people will be like,
yes,
who would have thought?
Yes, I agree.
Zack, thank you so much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Eddie.
A happy holidays, and we'll talk soon. I'm pretty sure we will do this again.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it, you guys. This was an amazing chat with Zack. Like he said, we don't agree on everything, but we had a good time, and that's what we do here. We love Housewives. We're gonna agree, disagree. So now the part where I ask you to subscribe. Go follow me on Instagram. Go follow me on Twitter. Go follow me on what's it called? YouTube. I also have my website, martiniwitheddie.com, and my podcast. So go listen to it. Have a great weekend. Bye, besties.